And so, could it have gone any better game one Saturday? And so, obviously, like every other Warrior game, full breakdown on the Patreon. And something that I highlighted right away in the breakdown, the first glaring thing when I went to the tape, because it's different. When you're excited, nervous, you're a fan, the emotions, a lot of these things you don't see in live time, right? You're like, well, we're killing them. We're doing this, right? And it took a while, actually. It was closer than I expected it to be early on. But the first glaring issue for the Denver Nuggets is their guards defensively. It's just unacceptable. Will Barton and Monte Morris, they're just a no-go. I mean, it's not like Mike Malone has a lot of options here. I understand that, but you've got several compounding issues when it comes to those two. They're not connected switching. Everybody says we'll switch it. Just switch. Just run a switching defense, right? But a lot of that is chemistry. You talk about chemistry, and everybody focuses on chemistry offensively. And to be fair, that does require more chemistry. But you need defensive chemistry, communication. And for whatever reason, Will Barton and Monte Morris, they're not connected with their switches. They call it out late. Perhaps they'll be better at home with the home crowd, but they weren't communicating their switches on time and properly. But then to compound that issue, when they were switching, they weren't able to stay connected to Klay Thompson and pulling these shooters and Steph when he was in there, right? They didn't stay connected. And then on top of that, when you watch them, they don't really navigate screens well. Navigating screens is another subject that kind of goes undervalued unless you get into, like, shout out to Thinking Basketball and some of these dudes that really get into the weeds of stuff when they talk about defense. But when I mean navigating screens is, there's a choice, right? Are you going over? Are you shooting the gap? Are you, there's always an option, right? And those two tend to choose wrong a lot of the time. Then you're dealing with Jokic way out at the three-point line in space. And so they kind of looked helpless out there in all the handoff and screen actions. And the problem is they don't have enough defenders on the roster to say, all right, let's roll out a defensive lineup. Like, enough's enough. We got to try to get stops. They really don't have that option with their personnel. Their only option is to try to outscore the Warriors. So moving forward, I think what we're going to see them do is take a lot more threes, in Jokic in particular. Probably see him work from the high post, the high-low game, have Aaron Gordon and Jeff Green cutting and playing in the paint where their strengths lie. And then that's less banging and wearing and tear on Jokic, can preserve his energy a little bit if he can play from the high post, face up, shoot that moon shot, or do his thing passing. And he can also see the help and double teams better. Putting him in the block, while we know he's capable of scoring 40, he can do it, right? It's just much more of a toll on his body. And then you're also asking Aaron Gordon in particular to play out on the perimeter where you see he's just not comfortable doing so. The other option would be, I think you got to go to Austin Rivers more. And now you are trading some offense for defense. But I think if you give Rivers heavy enough minutes, once he gets a rhythm and confidence, he's not so bad. He has shown the ability to knock down big shots in big moments. But defensively, he's just way better than either Barton or Monte Morris when it comes to staying attached to the shooters. But the problem is, it's like a Chicago summer. There's just too many shooters. I deemed it the Bermuda Triangle: Steph, Klay, and Jordan Poole. The defense just disappears in all that space, right? They didn't really debut it until, when was it? Halfway through that second quarter. The storyline right before the game was, well, Steph Curry's going to come off the bench. And I didn't like it initially. I was like, that's kind of, I don't know about all that. And then you heard him post-game talk about watching Klay struggle with his minutes limitation and the rotation and rhythm and rest. Yeah, cool. But I think ultimately what Steph might have been doing was protecting Steve Kerr from having to pull Jordan Poole out of the starting lineup, because that had been the biggest question headed into the playoffs. Jordan Poole, breakout year, most improved, whoop-de-whoop. Unfortunately, he's not even in the top three. To be fair, look, with the Jordan Poole most improved thing, that is probably the most competitive award category. Because, like, you look at Garland, like, okay, fine, that's tough, right? I don't agree with Ja because I don't think the leap he is already a star, so I don't believe in that. But there are 4 or 5 legit candidates. But anyway, I digress. I think that there was a part of Steph coming off the bench was just taking that decision out of Steve's hand. Steph kind of being like, all right, well, Poole's cooking. He's excited. His first playoff game. Let me ensure he gets the start by saying, no, I want to come off the bench. Just a thought. And so, look, you don't want to get overconfident. You got to take things one game at a time, as cliche as that sounds. But we've done this dance too many times. Those of you, there's different age groups listening here. Some of you are young fans and, you've only been watching the NBA for a couple years now. And then I got some OG listeners who have been watching it far longer than me, But you watch enough of these playoffs and you understand how the first weekend is always exciting, right? But 2 weeks from now, the entire landscape of the playoffs could change. Someone always goes down and things always change. And so you just can't get too ahead of yourself here. So at the risk of sounding greedy, I'd like to see the Warriors get this done without having to play anybody too many heavy minutes. In particular, the front court. The ability to mix in Bjelica, Otto Porter, hopefully some Kuminga, keep Draymond around 30 minutes, Looney under 20 minutes. That should be the goal because you look ahead to the second round, whether that's Minnesota or Memphis, the size and athleticism of either one of those front courts, it's going to be physically taxing and daunting. So you want these guys fresh headed into that second round. And again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but look, it is what it is. Sometimes a spade's a spade. Jokic is gassed from carrying such a heavy load all season, right? And he looks ready to fold. And I'm not questioning his heart or toughness. He's made me a believer over the last few seasons. I think he deserves the MVP. I'm not. But I think also at the same time, he's smart enough to know he is a human and he realizes when he doesn't really have a chance. And that's kind of what it looks like with the Nuggets. Personnel-wise, they don't have the perimeter defenders. Jokic has got to be out there, right? He is the hub of everything. And so he's going to be put in space. And the Warriors, you saw it, their offense was their defense on him. Pulling him out 25 feet from the basket, 20 feet from the basket, and playing in space on every possession. And then on the defensive end saying, all right, ISO, go to work. We're going to bang on you. We're not going to send like this deliberate help so you can just drop dimes everywhere. We want you to have to bump into Looney 4 times on each possession before you get your shot up. So I'd like to see the Dubs come out tonight, Monday night, game 2, and just clarify that for him. Kill any hope that they have.